guys, welcome to this week's episode. And me and Toby have been doing lots of radios just recently, and we're doing another one. We're actually the house band. We're doing a BBC Solent breakfast show, and we are literally programming sounds up for that thing because we've got to kind of travel light because the studios are not massive. So let me just show you what we are doing. We are using the Helix. We're using Variacs and various other bits and bobs, but the main thing is the Helix. Now we don't plug into the consoles at the BBC because they don't like us to. So we are using the Helix, and we're using two paths on the Helix. So we've got the lead sounds, and then Toby's programming his sounds in on another path. Aren't you, Toby?
Yes!
Yes! And we are going into my tiny little Vox AC10 because it's probably the biggest amp we could take in there. It's like I said, there's not enough room in these studios. So yes, so we're programming that tonight, and then in the morning we've got an early set off because it is the breakfast show after all. So yeah, let's hope we can video in the studio tomorrow. I'm sure we will be able to. We'll cut out all the other chit chat and just probably have the guitar parts. Cool. Won't we, Toby?
Yes!
So here we are at the BBC. We're at BBC Dorset, and we're about to go on the breakfast show for BBC Solent. And we're looking really fresh. Look at Toby, how fresh he looks. Have you actually been to bed?
Yes.
Ah. Well, we're just waiting with all our equipment.
I'm reading an insightful book about pervert cats.
About what?
Pervert cats.
I thought you said pervert cats. Oh, it's too early.
I'm so tired I couldn't say that.
Live Guitar Heroes stuff for us this morning, and we start with Phil and Toby's rendition of the Shadows Apache. Amazing. It's when you watch people doing stuff so well and so coolly. That is quite something. We'll talk to Phil and Toby a bit later on. As I say, they're going to carry on playing classic music guitar riffs for us over the course of this morning's show. Checking with our house band this morning, Phil Walker and Toby James, who are performing as the Story of Guitar Heroes big show coming up at the Weymouth Pavilion. Listen to that. I've got a bit of guitar feedback coming through on the mic. That sounds lovely. And doing this time round for us, the work of Mark Knopfler and co. This is Sultans of Swing. forward a little bit, Phil. We'll
Yeah.
have a proper chat in a bit. But did you ever kind of pull the faces and stick your tongue out like Kiss? Because you sat there so sedately doing something as rock and roll as that.
Well, I could stick my tongue out if you like.
I would like
Would you
that.
like? There we go. Then. There you go.
Oh, I regret that decision. More from them coming up a bit later on in the show. In the studio by Phil Walker and Toby James, who are our house band this morning, who I think you're letting the side down a little, Phil. Your renditions so far of these songs have been so crystal clear. I'm trying to make it abundantly clear that you're performing live for us today.
Yes.
That is that a Fender Stratocaster?
It's a Fiesta Red Fender Stratocaster.
Beautiful
Yeah.
thing as well. And they're just the 3 guitars that you brought with you today.
We've just bought 3. Yeah, I mean, there's another 27 at home.
How many make it out on the road for the Guitar Hero
Yeah, I
shows?
think we're over 30 now.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, we will chat a bit more with Phil and Toby later on in the programme, but performing another one of the classic tracks that make up the Story of Guitar Hero show, which is touring the UK and coming to Weymouth on the 3rd of August at the Pavilion. These are Phil, Toby, the Story of Guitar Heroes, and Layla. Live in the studio for us this morning. And Phil and Toby are live with us in the studio. We'll talk with them for the first proper time this morning in a sec. But first up, a bit of Jimi Hendrix on BBC Radio Silence. That is a lovely thing. Phil, if you scooch forward, you can talk into one of our microphones. Toby as well. Give us a bit of background to you guys. So how long have you been working together, and how long has this show been kind of in the making?
Well, me and Toby were a happy accident. A mutual friend of ours, he rang me up one day and said, "Oh, could you dep for me? Because I've double booked myself." And it was with Toby's band. He asked me to play bass, and that's how we met about 5-6 years ago.
Bass?
Yeah.
That is an abomination, isn't it? Putting somebody like you on bass guitar?
I love playing bass.
Really?
Yeah, don't diss the bass player.
Put my bass player jokes to one side.
Oh no, go on, you can tell.
And like I mentioned it earlier on, but I'm always impressed by this. And like I say, I briefly wanted to learn to drum, and I wanted to be one of those drummers that was a flail, blur of arms. And then you go and see the really good drummers, and they're sat behind a kit, barely moving, but creating an incredible racket. And similarly, watching you there on your Fender, very little movement apart from obviously a blur of fingers. Is that? I mean, is that just what happens when you are a good guitarist?
It's a lot of practice.
A lot of coffee this morning.
It's a lot of coffee. Yeah, exactly.
coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of practice. I started when I was 6 years old.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't play football. I was a very lazy child.
Yeah.
But played a lot of guitar.
And I mean, what from this show is most difficult? Is it something that would surprise people when it comes to recreating these famous riffs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not even necessarily the playing, but trying to get the sounds exactly like the originals. Because we actually do I think it's over 18 guitar heroes in the show now, and trying to get 18 different guitar sounds, to try sound like Eric Clapton, to try sound like Dire Straits.
How much is that to do with the way that you play versus that box of tricks at your feet?
It's both.
Yeah.
It's both. The box of tricks kind of gets you in the ballpark with the sounds, but if you were to approach a Shadows song like Jimi Hendrix, then obviously it's not going to work. You've got to put the effort into getting the style as well.
And we heard you doing Apache earlier on. Is there something that is quite, I don't know, laid back about the way that Hank plays?
It's the voice-like approach, if you like. He approaches it like he's playing. It's like a voice rather than sort of shredding away on the guitar. It's quite a delicate way of playing.
Apache's never what I think of when I think of shredding. It's a lovely thing. I mean, you are doing shows right across Dorset, Bournemouth, I think, maybe Wimborne as well.
Yeah.
This big one at the Pavilion on the 3rd of August in Weymouth. What kinds of... I mean, how much is it a live show versus how much is it a sonic experience?
Well, we like to call it a rockumentary. Obviously everything we play is completely live. There's a 4-piece band on stage.
Okay.
We've got video screens as well. So in between the songs there's footage which links, because we run on a timeline. We start in the 50s and work our way to sort of more modern players like Brian May from Queen.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the whole live experience, but it's quite informative as well.
Bits of information in between times about how the guitar changed over
yeah.
times, from when it was a railway sleeper to the beautiful things you have now. Right, well look, it's been lovely having you in today and genuinely knocked our socks off.
Great
really
being here, thank
appreciate
you.
it. And you're going to finish up with, well, I don't know if it's a full 6 minutes, but a bit of the Eagles for us.
It's the end bit. Yeah.
Anything you can, do you know what? So we were just talking off air about the 4-hour-long Eagles documentary, which is on Netflix. And I remember watching the Hell Freezes Over tour when I was a kid. And them playing this solo on stage, and it's just a beautiful thing to behold. It's back to back at the microphone, kind of having a chat about how they've been for the 15 years they've been broken up or whatever it was. Brilliant. Okay, so yeah, here we go then. So you can find out more about these guys by going to storyofguitarheroes.com or to philwalker.org. As I say, playing across Dorset in Weymouth for their big gig at the Pavilion on the 3rd of August. Phil and Toby with Hotel California. Amazing. How about that? Fingers bleeding, strings bent within an inch of their lives.